anniversaries are marked primarily by years. I really think that in the case of CyFair College, its impact is being measured. Many people came from other colleges in the system for no additional pay, with a lot more work, just to be a part of something that really set forth a different kind of vision for the future and for what a college could be.
There's something special that happens when you're all focused on one goal.
So saw the growth, was part of the growth. And it's always been that innovative, creative space that we had started with.
When I started the program, I really enjoyed it. It was very technical. It was very fulfilling. I wanted to do something that would change people's lives.
The site of the college was a swamp with a herd of cattle on it.
And all of a sudden, pow, there was the campus.
Big buildings, brand new, and then, of course, exciting, you're starting your new career.
Where we are right now was just a gravel lot. They had these trailers, and that's where my office was the first year.
The buildings going up, the trees getting taller, the number of students increasing, the parking lots going in.
It's just really astounding where we've come.
I love meeting with the students and teaching them, and I've seen generational changes, but to me, the students are just as wonderful as they were 20, 25 years ago.
When we went from a 3,000 person enrollment to a 8,000 person enrollment, we had people lined up outside of the library, and I was like, who's doing a book signing? And they're like, no, they're here to register for classes.
As we've come out of the years impacted by COVID, when everyone really had to kind of pull within their walls and maintain distance and isolation at times, what is the most important message for our community to understand is our doors are open and we are here for them.
I've been overwhelmed by not just the way that this campus community has welcomed me, but overall looking at the entire CyFair community as a whole has welcomed my family. So my kids go to CyFair ISD and they feel welcomed. It feels like a home, and truly what we found is that welcoming, I belong atmosphere here.
I grew up in the Summerall neighborhood down the road, and I live in Copperfield now. I love the fact that the effort I put in here at the college and that all the stuff that my team does helps people in the community that I grew up in.
I think what really stood out to me when I've been able to bring my kids to like a library event or something and introduce them to some of my work family, if you will, and them getting excited about it and then going home and saying, Mommy, one day I want to go to your college.
My son is a student here at Lone Star College, and so it's a great opportunity to bridge him from high school to college. Everybody matures at different rates, and I really feel like there's opportunities for students that are a little bit more advanced to take college classes in high school, but also to those that mature just a little bit behind. It's a great opportunity to stay kind of close to home, but also take some great college classes and get ready for a university.
The collaboration was not because you are friends or you are in the same field, and it's because we were family.
It's a big misconception that, community college is just get you in and get you out. The curriculum is pretty hard, and the teachers are wonderful.
That's what keeps me here, our care for each other and our care for our community and students.
And this area has become a hub of activity and a community center. It's really very heartwarming.
This last year's graduation in May of 23, just the energy of that celebration after a number of years of real challenge in navigating through COVID and finally kind of getting to this point of joyous celebration again.
My first convocation, my first Sci-Fest, my first time to get to be a Jedi in front of the camera. Those are all very, very important firsts for me. Lone Star College CyFair. May the Force be with you.
For a Southern luncheon that we would treat the faculty for. I was dressed up as Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top. Me too, we had a registration rally, Beach Santa or Brazilian Santa, full white beard, white hair, and I had many of the similar comments that they didn't recognize me at all. But I think after my 10th year here at Lone Star College CyFair, I have established myself as the Dean of Disguises, and I will continue that tradition into the future.
I mean, I'll never forget the day that Student Life brought in a bunch of baby goats We got to pet baby goats. They're adorable.
You know, we don't know a lot of things about the future, but that was at the heart of the vision, right? Preparing students to have a lifetime of learning and change.
That's on us to encourage creativity, to encourage critical thinking, so that we really stay on the cutting edge of the direction that our community is going to need us to be to prepare people to be active and thriving within that economy and within that community.
I enjoy seeing the success stories that come out of it. These folks that are bridging the gap to Harvard, to Stanford, and doing just some amazing things out there. You really do have an opportunity to collaborate with a lot of businesses and a lot of nonprofits in our area, and so I think that's only going to grow and continue in the next 20 years.
So many of the programs that we have in place now, we really could not do it without having that strong relationship with them.
I see us being able to help students continue to keep moving to what they want to do with their goals.
So many of the students that came through our program are now teaching in CyFair ISD. They have reached their goal, their ultimate goal, and they have their start at Lone Star College.
The impact and the life changes that are being made in students and families is just incredible.
I think that our students are showing the next generation is going to be okay. My students are able to do the work, they're able to do the jobs. They've gone through adversity, they went through the pandemic. These people are going to be up for the challenge of being the community leaders, of being the business leaders, of being the education leaders.
A tremendous thank you and congratulations to everyone who has made possible this year's 20th anniversary celebration of Lone Star College CyFair. A tremendous debt of gratitude to everyone who had the innovation and the creativity and the passion over 20 years ago to have the idea that this college could come to be. And a tremendous thank you and congratulations to everyone who over the last 20 years has joined the college, has become part of our integral fabric, and has made an amazing experience and impact for our students and for our community. Thank you very much, and congratulations on 20 years Lone Star College CyFair.
Are we on? Brian, you're the magic worker. Congratulations, Lone Star College CyFair for 20 years! If you have been here 15 to 20 or 21, if you started over at Center, if you have been here more than 15 years, please stand to be recognized for that longevity. Longer. If you have been here 10 years or longer, please stand. If you have been here more than 5 years, please stand and join your colleagues. And if, like me, you are in your first 5 years, please stand as we celebrate all 20 years of amazing people on Lone Star College. Your exercise for the day, please make yourselves comfortable. Wait, that's all you have to do for exercise? That's all, that's it. It's that easy. And we have a dessert bar for you later that totally counterbalance that. Welcome to the beginning of our fall semester on the coolest day we've had in 45 days at a mere high of 98 degrees. This morning, this is a special convocation. Not only are we kicking off fall of 2023 together and the beginning of another academic year, but this is a special celebration year. And so this convocation, including the lunch and dinner, or lunch and dessert, are both supercharged for us today, infused throughout with celebration of our origins, as well as the 20 years that this college has been making an impact on our lives and on our community. So you'll see throughout the presentation that each of us will be sharing a memory, and even more importantly, we're bringing forward to the stage special guests throughout this morning's presentation to recognize the origins, the years in between, and our newest additions to the team, and allow them some time to share their experiences about their time with you and their contributions in time at Lone Star College CyFair. So I'll kick us off with my memory, and I'm going to cheat and bookend that. So for me, it really is my first year last year here is a beautiful sandwich between my first day and the graduation stage. And on my first day, I came to campus, and we're all human. We all become kindergartners on our first day in a new job. So I was like, I don't know where I'm going to sit. I don't know where I'm going to go. I don't know. Like, I'm super excited, but I'm also super terrified. And I know some people, but not everybody, right? And you're like, where am I going to sit in the cafeteria for lunch? And as I walked into my office, there was a sign. It still chokes me up. There was a sign that said, "Welcome home." And that's exactly what I did. And then I sobbed, and then I grabbed that off. I was like, yes, this is awesome. This is who they are. This is who I get to be a part of. And that was reinforced a year later as we stood in graduation after stressing about, am I going to have students sit on laps, and that's going to be wholly inappropriate. But we have a large graduation attendance of over 1,000 students and their families cheering, and even more family members watching online. But looking out across that auditorium and seeing the breadth of experiences and identities and personalities and hardships and accomplishments, and just being in that moment with all of you in celebration of all the very, very hard work that we do every single day for our students, and seeing on their faces and seeing in how they had decided to present their identities that day and seeing that celebrated was just a perfect bookend memory for me. So I share those with you as my memory of our 20th anniversary celebration. One of our special guests will be joining us in September as we have the community event, but not surprisingly, as a dedicated member of our student services team, she is with students today. So these are the folks that will be joining us, representing all 20 years of our time together. And I believe, first up, we have Dr. Claire Phillips. As you welcome one of our founding faculty to the stage, please also join me in recognizing her upcoming retirement this fall. Claire Phillips, the stage is yours, my friend.
I thought everybody knew, because the rumor mill is so good. I guess some of you were surprised. Dr. Jones asked me to speak today, and I was really happy. We were at, I think, a scholarship event. After the event, she asked me if I'd do this for a few minutes, and I asked, what do you want me to speak about? And she said, about 5 minutes. Thank you. But then she said that it was especially important for me to speak not just about my personal journey here, professional journey, but how it reflects what's happened over the 20 years here. And it's going to be a little poignant for me. But let me start with some personal information that you may or may not know. I was actually born on the East Coast, New York City. My formative years were in the Midwest, as was Dr. Jones in Missouri. And then my husband and I transitioned out to the West Coast, the San Francisco Bay Area. This is not a travelogue, there is a reason I'm telling this. But we ended up here in Houston. I guess probably this was happening to a lot of people now, but because for financial reasons, we didn't want to live in California anymore. And my husband's an engineer, we could afford to live here on one salary. Serendipity, we could have lived anywhere in Houston. We settled on Cypress, and it was the best decision that we have ever made for so many reasons. I think Cypress is an area where people are Midwestern in a sense, like-minded people, strong moral values, family first, willing to invest in youth, not transient like the West Coast, not hard-nosed like the East Coast. We just really felt at home here. And I think these values are reflected at our college here. Today, and I Belong, I think reflects that too. So I think that I'm here for a purpose. I'm not quite sure what that purpose is, but I believe that I'm giving back something to the community by working at CyFair College, Lone Star College CyFair. I actually started out here as a community volunteer. When we moved here, I had little kids. I didn't want to work for the first time in my adult life for a few years. So I did a lot of volunteering work, and then I thought, I'm working full-time, I might as well get paid. So I decided to segue from business, which was my teaching background, and I had a secondary school education degree, and I went to North Harris Montgomery Community College District as an adjunct for a few years. I segued as a full-time business professor. During that time, and some of you lived here, I was talking to Maggie about this, this didn't exist. Nothing was here. I mean, nothing was here. You could go, I would go from 290 to I-10 in 10 minutes, because that was my cut through. You can't do that anymore, can you? But there were a lot of people in the CyFair community, a full group of people who thought we should have a community college in this area. And I agreed. HCC wanted to come here too. So what we had to do was have a referendum to come here. There was a powerhouse named Darcy Mongoya. Do any of you know her? She was the Chamber of Commerce president at the time. And I had done some work with her doing some seminars for the Chamber of Commerce. So she shoves a clipboard in my hand and a piece of paper, and I walked the fields of Dice Park because my kids were soccer players, and I stood in front of Gerland's, which is no longer here, and I got lots and lots of signatures, all of which came together so that we could create a community college together. As you remember, for those of you who were here, I saw so many of you on this video, we had to, as full-time people, interview to come here. It wasn't automatic. Right, John? But we wanted to come here, and we started with a dream. And this dream was a small, relatively small dream of 6,000 people, 6,000 students. And it grew. You know, if you build it, they will come. Well, they definitely did come. Definitely did come. So now we're a campus of, what, 23,000 students. And my division alone is the size of some community colleges in Texas. So we're not little anymore, but we're still great. So in summary, I believe that both our college and myself, obviously, as I retire, and work part-time as an adjunct. Yes, I'm not leaving. But I believe that we're both at the maturity stage of our life cycle. That's kind of a business term, as Melinda would know. Where we're being challenged to reinvent ourselves as people and as a college. And while I've been privileged to touch the lives of, I would say, thousands of students, counting back, at Lone Star College CyFair, we've made a difference, not in hundreds of students or thousands of students' lives, but hundreds of thousands of students' lives over these 20 years of existence. Friends come visiting this area, or people come interviewing, and they ask, well, where is the Cypress Town Hall? What's the center? And I have to explain, well, it's unincorporated, we don't really have a center. But then I bring them to the corner of West Road and Barker Cypress Road, and I point out the Berry Center, which of course they think is a college, right? And I say, this is our ISD. And then I take them to lunch at Town Lake, which is a multi-purpose center and all gorgeous houses. But then I circle around the college, and I show them all our incredible stories and buildings and everything, and I say, this is CyFair. This is the center of our community, which I totally believe. Thanks very much, guys.
And for those of us that were standing in the 5 years or less, I would like to take a moment to recognize Claire's wardrobe throwback in time. We also had her original t-shirt and our sucks. So you all have stayed flexible over many years of time and change. All right, so I get to spend a little bit of time with you talking about where we are, where we were last year, and where we are headed and moving forward. A huge shout out also, you will see our Falcon Force members all over the place, but our social media team and our college relations team has done phenomenal work this year, putting the energy that you bring every day into the social media platform. So if we could take just a moment to recognize all of the Okay, so real quick, what's changed? I know for many of us it feels like everything, right? There's been a lot of significant changes. A couple of those to note, HB 8, House Bill 8, the entire funding system for how community colleges are funded has changed. Kind of a big deal, pretty monumental that all 50 community colleges were enthusiastically supportive of the change. It's a really pivotal moment in Texas history right now that I'm very optimistic about. The key part of that funding shift is that the dollars are allocated based on completion. So making that difference in students' lives, getting them to a point of readiness where they have in their skill sets and in their possession something that creates opportunities that they did not have before they met us. And so that's the funding driver. There's a whole bunch of logistics about, well, how are we going to do that and what's that going to look like? That's all in development. But the key change is that the focus is now statewide on student completion as opposed to student enrollments. So you will hear us talk about how many students we serve because that is a measure of your magnitude. But it is no longer the funding source or the primary driver in our funding. It's about the impact that you make on those students. That's tied into the Coordinating Board Talent Strong Texas. So both of those you are welcome to read about online or reach out to me if you would like any of the documentation to get a better sense of what those discussions have been. On the challenging end of changes, Senate Bill 17 is the bill that you are also welcome to take a look at online. It has to do with constriction on language and terminology and offices pertaining to diversity, equity, and inclusion. So please feel free to do your research and see what that state bill looks like, but those are both changes. So our new chancellor was introduced yesterday at his very first convocation. So Mario Castillo is our newest chancellor, but he is not new to the college, so we are excited to see his leadership. We have two new presidents as Montgomery as well as UP get their new presidents on board. And then we also welcome two new student success leaders here on campus, our Dean, Melissa Rawson, and our acting VPSS, Wendy Wilson, who is moving, there she is, who's Wendy. So Melissa and Wendy, if you would stand for a moment just so that we can put a face to a name. Thank you both. But what's not new within all of that is that in that state funding model, no community college took a pay cut. That's a really important commitment to all 50 of the Texas schools and our rural community colleges that have a really difficult challenge that we have the inverse challenge of they're all moving here. So how do we handle that? So none of them take a cut. That's a really significant commitment. And as a college, Lone Star Board of Trustees asked for a committee to go through our policies and ensure our compliance and alignment with state law as a result of SB 17. That has been done and completed. You will not see massive changes in the services that we provide, nor in our commitment to you, our commitment to your breadth and diversity of identities, nor that of our students. So if you are interested, take a look back at the August board meetings and you'll see all of the policy changes to ensure that we are compliant with state law, but we are also continuing our commitment to our students and to our employees. Our new chancellor shares that commitment to student success just today. He actually ended a long-standing practice where every morning at 7:30, the presidents of each campus, as well as quite a few other folks, got the enrollment report. You know what you can do with knowing your enrollment is up 5% or down 2% today for enrollment that starts tomorrow? Nothing. That work's been done months ago. And so I affectionately refer to that as the turtle report, because if you've ever seen a turtle race, you put the turtle in the chute and it's angled and then you just wait. You can't do anything. You can scream and cheer and cry, but you are not going to change the outcome of that turtle race. So the enrollment report doesn't come out anymore. It still exists, we can still access that data, but it removes it from the front driving force of our actions. So his commitment to student success continues the direction that we have been pursuing. Both of the new presidents have tremendous experience that are going to be an asset in leadership here at Lone Star College and as part of the Chancellor's Cabinet. And both of our new student success leaders bring a tremendous set of experiences within Lone Star College, across colleagues of instruction and student services, as well as system office. And as many of you know, Melissa couldn't stay away but for a few years. And so she has also, I'm not sure how you did your math a minute ago when we had you sit instead, but Melissa is new and not new simultaneously. So we are excited to have you both on board. Okay. If you remember, back in spring and back in fall, we set 3 college goals. And we also talked about how we use data and looking at setting our pathway to Brazil. When we set college goals, just like when we go about setting a very big trip, it doesn't happen immediately, and that is okay. That is exactly the way it's supposed to go. So are we in Brazil? Have we accomplished everything? Nope. But we're working on it together. So the first of those is to increase the number of students who complete, right? With a specific focus on those students who have been marginalized for any number of reasons and may not show up in the representation that they appear in our community. As you can see from this May's graduation, we have certainly increased the number of students who are walking across our stages. But I wanted to share this with you because I want to introduce today 2 terms that many of you are probably familiar with, but you'll hear us talk about. A lagging indicator is very much like that turtle race concept. It's so far off, you can't really act as a result of it. So if I say, hey, we've got a whole bunch more students in the AA that graduated in 21, right, as we're looking at, graduated in 22, why? There could be lots of reasons. It could be very complex. And is there anything that we do different today because of that? I'm not sure. Can we impact graduation rates? Absolutely. But if we have a magic wand and we do all of that today, right now, so that next Monday, when new students walk through our doors, they have a transformative experience and 100% of them experience everything like they've never experienced before, it will be 2 to 3 to 4 years before we see the impact of that on their completion, right? So we can't drive looking in the rearview mirror, and we can't act waiting to, well, maybe it'll be okay. It is an important point for us to have, but it can't be the thing that drives our daily activity. So you'll see us share things called lagging indicators as a point of reference, but please know they are very complex. We fully acknowledge they are very complex, and so they are a point of reference, but they are not our daily guiding light. To disaggregate that a little bit based on our college goal, which asks us to look at things in certain ways, some of our successes is that in our increase of graduates with Pell, which is the only metric we have to identify socioeconomic need, that's a limitation in and of itself, but it's a reality of our data. We have more students graduating with that assistance, but a smaller percentage of our graduates. Is that good or bad? I don't really know, right? So part of today is just reminding us that with some of these lagging indicators, it's a way to ask ourselves questions and determine whether or not we need to spend more time looking into those questions. If we have had an increasingly affluent community, that percentage might not be indicative of anything other than the demographic of our population. But if the average socioeconomic experience of our community has gone down, if people are struggling more and more spaces, and we're having a smaller percentage graduate, that might be an indication that we have some opportunities to make special connections for those students who are receiving Pell. Right. So similarly in age, the student population that is skyrocketed is the 20 to 24. So our more traditional age population, and I say that because I've had a number of 23-year-olds come to me and say, I'm too late. I'm late getting here, I'm old. I'm like, no, you don't get to be old because I know what that makes me. And so, again, it may be a demographic shift. It's definitely part of a national trend. So there's no action, but there are questions that we can begin asking each other as we look at data in this way. We did complete goal number 2. So congratulations to everybody who participated, and we had hundreds of people provide input from across the college, including students, on the tenets of I Belong. So this year, you will be seeing these in all kinds of things, but the tenets that you created that said, what does I belong mean to me, and what does it look like as a framework that we set for ourselves as an institution that's then going to have impact. And I just realized my timer wasn't running, so I apologize for my rephrase. Just be stuck with me for 45 minutes. So as we look at the tenets of I Belong, there's still a lot of words. If we really stop and kind of boil it down, what we're saying is that we believe that we can create an inclusive environment by earning trust, expanding understanding, so that everyone feels seen, supported, and respected as part of our college. That's a huge gift to give each other, to receive, and to give to our students in our community. So I am excited to do this work with you as we move forward in implementation of what does this look like for us as individuals and as groups. And as does happen when you accomplish a goal, you celebrate, you're excited, and you set a new goal. So our new goal for the same space is to do just that, to use this year to have those conversations together, to look at the research, to do the research, to explore with our students and with each other, what is it that can look like for me, for my group, for my team? Where can we continue to improve in this area? With the important part of this being that each of you, as you explore this, remember, you have tremendous power to impact change. You are tremendously impactful in your colleagues' lives and in your students' lives, and you matter. How you choose to interact with each other, how you choose to treat that lost student who's trying to find their class next week, how you choose to respond to that community member who's waiting on you at Ambrosia like we just had recently. He's like, yeah, I've been thinking about coming to the college. Dangerous thing to say to a table of Lone Star College CyFair. That is in your hands, and that is a tremendous gift that you bring. In our third goal, it is to do just that, to specifically identify those spaces in our campus operations where unintentionally, right, not because we meant to, but we recognize, we have fallen short of where we can be, and we want to improve in those spaces together. So this is a brief list of examples of the things during last year that we identified in conversation with all of you as being those spaces where things were not being experienced equitably for all kinds of different reasons. And a very quick explanation of, at the end of those conversations and research and looking at causality and all of those pieces, what have we done differently to improve, to get in front of that, to avoid that happening, and to bring solutions to some of those experiences. So our goals moving into this year should look very familiar because goals 1 and 3 remain unchanged. Goal 2 is updated for us to continue that conversation and dialogue together. Really briefly, I want to take us through leading indicators. So we said lagging indicators, those things that are extremely complex, can take multiple years to be realized and are very important, but can't drive our daily actions. Leading indicators, on the other hand, allow us to have a focus that is much more in time accessible so that we can start to impact change. only one of those, right? I'm not saying this is not the only one, but one of those variables that impacts graduation is course success. If I fail all of my classes, the likelihood of me walking across the graduation stage is very slim. So when we look at course success as a leading indicator for all of us, regardless of role, it allows us to see where we are and to kind of gauge, this is our starting point, right? Remember when we were talking about going to Brazil, if we find really cheap flights from Las Vegas, but we're standing in Houston, that really won't help us. And so we want to be able to work with our experiences and our students' reality. And then disaggregating that by those variables that allow us to see kind of behind the curtain in ways that help us focus our actions. So this year is all about how do we go from these concepts to actions that improve experiences for each other and for our students. When we look at our student body, demographic, and experience this spring, on the left of your screen, I have to do my left-right, on the left of your screen is our spring demographics. It is particularly important to note that we have almost 15,000 part-time students. Higher education was built for full-time students. But our students are experiencing us part-time, often while they're navigating work and families and various other things as well, as many of you know. But keeping that in mind is important. And then when we disaggregate by our racial and ethnic demographics and ask the questions, are all of our students experiencing success equitably? The answer is not yet, right? The solutions are complex, but the answer is to acknowledge not yet. But this is the right team of people to change that. When we disaggregate by modality, or by session length, and we look at our first time in college, I have to throw a couple acronyms in just to throw Matthew Dempsey over the edge. So FTIC is first time in college. When we disaggregate, this is what we're seeing, right? This is where we are. Now within that, you deserve a huge recognition and celebration because your face-to-face and online course success is the same. Nationally, there's usually a 10 percentage point difference. And this has pulled out our dual credit students. So please give yourselves a huge round of applause because it is a complex solution, and that is an amazing accomplishment. When we look at our first time in college, the reason I pull that piece out of this is those are the students who their very first experience with us will validate either their ability to thrive or it will validate the fears in their head that this isn't the right place for them. Everyone in this room, from our student services to our administration to our faculty, everyone at this college works their tails off to tell our students that they're successful, that they can do this, that they can thrive. So the solutions are complex, but you are the right, brilliant, talented, and compassionate people to work together to figure out what those solutions might be. Okay. One of the things I'd like to leave you with, and I'm almost done, although I have no idea, what is that built working off of? 20? No idea. All right, so I'm probably way over time. But this is really important because I think about you a lot, not in a stalker creepy way, but I think about you a lot because you are that important. You make that much of a difference. And I think about your different experiences, and I think about the stories that you tell me, and I think about the celebrations and the frustrations that you have. And one of the things that helped me kind of figure out how do we talk about doing this complex work for student completion together and this complex work about student success in and out of the classroom together. These two sports really helped me kind of get my head around it. We can't lower the high bar and consider ourselves to be Olympic high bar athletes, right? Trust me, I'm not getting over that high bar. I'm not even sure how the laws of physics allow her to fling her body up into the air like that. We cannot lower the bar, just like we cannot lower the expectations for our students. Every research study that has looked at the lowering of expectations of students has proven that students just underperform. When we identify the correct bar, we put the bar where they need it to be for succeeding and thriving in their professions. We then have to figure out how to train them, how to coach them, how to teach them to get over that bar. but they don't have to land on concrete. We also have to look at the science. We have to look at the art of teaching, of working with students and advising, of communicating with students before they've even walked into CASA. We have to figure out and think about and continue to learn in all of those spaces so that we put down the correct padding, because they will fall. They are humans, and they are striving for a really high bar. So we have to put down the right padding. Sometimes the pole will break. They didn't do anything wrong, but the pole will break nonetheless. And without the correct padding in the correct places, then that will end their ability to be a competitive athlete. Similarly, Simone Biles, one of our own near neighbors, brilliant, talented athlete. She can never lower her expectations. She has moves named after her. But unexpectedly, even with all of that training, and all of that coaching, and all of that support, her mental health took a toll. And if she didn't have the pads there to keep her alive and thriving, if she didn't have the right supports, but not too much supports, if she didn't have an opportunity to step back a little bit and then rejoin, all of those pieces combine that human element of who we are and the art and the science of the work that we do. So ultimately, we know that this world is not where it was 20 years ago when we opened our doors. We know that our students' experiences are not what they were 20 years ago when we opened our doors. So what do I need to continue to learn to support them to get over that bar and land safely? What do we as a college need to provide, and how can I contribute to that? And what do we need to do differently, and how can I contribute to that? So as we come together as a community, as we celebrate our 20 years of amazing growth and innovation and creativity, and everything that you have built this college to be and continue to do, I encourage us to remember this year that that sense of community becomes magical when we transfer it into action that has impact for our students. Thank you so much for your time today and for everything that you continue to do for our students and for each other.
Good morning. I'm Michelle Tran, the Executive Director of College Relations, and I'm here to share my favorite LSC-CyFair memory with you. I've written this, and rewritten it, and written it again, and this is the version I settled on that doesn't make me ugly cry, so here we go. I've been at CyFair for 19 years now, and I've got a lot of great memories, but the one that stands out, it's not really an event, it's what happened after the event that makes it my favorite memory. As you know, Hurricane Harvey was a devastating storm that caused widespread damage and displacement in our community. In 2 short hours and for 4 days, we became a fully operational shelter and a distribution site of necessities in the wake of Hurricane Harvey for 97 guests and 600 visitors, thanks to the overwhelming support of more than 1,000 volunteers. Our college was one of the many shelters that opened its doors to those who've lost everything, and I'm so proud of the way our students, faculty, and staff came together to help. We spent hours volunteering, organizing, and providing food, water, and shelter to those in need, and we even opened our door to pets because they're part of the family too. We were one unit, giving back to our community, and honestly, it was an absolutely beautiful thing to see. This experience showed me the spirit of our college, all of us, that we are strong, resilient, and compassionate, and that when we come together, we can overcome anything. I'm proud of the work we all did at the shelter, and I know it made a difference in the lives of those who were affected by Hurricane Harvey, and that is why it's my favorite memory. Our next speaker, Daryl Woodruff, was very much a part of that Harvey memory. He started that same year and was working side by side with all of us. You all knew Daryl as our capable OTS user services manager and sometimes internet ham. We partnered with him on our, he's giving you a run for your money, Ronnie. We partnered with him on a recent campaign targeting post-traditional students And his YouTube video has over 22,000 views. So, yeah. He is getting stopped at the supermarket on campus, and he's got quite a fan base now. But I met Daryl over 15 years ago, and we quickly struck up a friendship, and it's been downhill for me ever since. So therefore, I must apologize to each and every one of you. Because of my friendship with Daryl, you can say I'm responsible for bringing him here. And that means you're all going to have to listen to him talk about wrestling, homebrewing, and Pokemon. So all jokes aside, I am very proud of Daryl. And everything he's accomplished. And he is a good friend, he's a dedicated coworker, an amazing, devoted dad, and one of the funniest guys I know. So please welcome my pal, Daryl.
Everyone should have entrance music. So yes, my name is Daryl Woodruff, and I proudly serve as your OTS User Services Manager here at the campus. That is at least until Doug Weiss is up and gives me the boot. I do promise I'm not going to give you any OTS spiel today, but I do want to take a minute to recognize my team. I've worked with several great IT teams in my career, but ours really is truly incredible. They have incredibly high expectations put on them, but they always deliver. They're simply extraordinary, and I do really appreciate every single one. I started college back in 2001. I'm not very mature today. I was much less mature 20 years ago. At the time, I was already making money. I started my IT career when I was 16 years old, working this little family business that you probably never heard of called Enron. I had enough money, I had a Nintendo 64, I didn't want to go to class. I'd usually show up for a week or two, I'd stop going. I was such a poor student, I didn't even withdraw. I just ate the Fs. Obviously, I very quickly made my way onto academic probation. I was taking classes at Tomball at the time. This is when I ran into a professor named Professor Calvin Reynolds. He was a Master Chief in the Navy, which is a person that's in charge of all the enlisted men on a ship. Part of what he does is he looks at his sailors, he finds the ones with some innate talent, and he's the one that has to develop it. He's like a stern father figure. He knows who needs discipline, who needs direction. And he gave me a little bit of direction when I took his introduction to networking class. He had to do my paperwork for academic probation in that class. But then I excelled in it, so he pulled me to the side and said, hey, you should consider the Cisco networking program. He did the paperwork again, I signed up, I excelled in the class. 3 years later, I graduated from it. I went on to a pretty lucrative career that's even, brought me back here. When I did come back here, it was a no-brainer for me to just get back to work on my degree. And so, one of the first things I had to do, though, is I had to go visit Dr. Lambert because I was still on academic probation. So I remember I looked at Dr. Lambert and said, hey, I'm the IT manager. And he's go, okay, can you take me off academic probation? And I remember his exact words were, yeah, I guess it's been long enough. But that wasn't the end, because guess what? I bombed immediately. I'd taken too many classes with everything going on with working in my life, and I turned around and I withdrew from all but one class. The one class that I did not withdraw from was college algebra. Guess who was no longer math ready? So, it took the wind out of my sails a little bit, but it was about that time that I ran into a professor that I'd taken a class from here 20 years ago, and that was Professor Alex Smith. Is he in here? Alex was the one professor outside of my technology classes that I would show up for. His lectures were so good and so engaging that I actually wanted to come to class. And when I saw him, he came by, he was looking for help with his computer, as he's known to do sometimes. I realized that to get the ball rolling out of my degree, I was going to take my second history class. And I did. It was great. And suddenly I had a little momentum going again. Yeah. All right. So yeah, and that's when COVID happened. You know, everything kind of fell apart in the world. I had my first kid. I was still working. Work was a little crazy for those days. But still, I made sure that I was taking at least one class at a time. I took advantage of a lot of the 8-week classes. Investors became a big part of what I was doing. Because I had a lot of classes to take, but you know, as Desmond Tutu tells us, the way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. So I did. I graduated in the summer of 2020. And it was a really good feeling. For a lot of our students, that degree represents hope and opportunity. But for me, that really represents, you know, an insurance policy, because I've already done quite a bit in my career, and once again, someday Doug's going to wisen up and give me the boot. But really what was most important to me about graduating was getting to tell my parents that I did it. Clearly I wasted a lot of their time, a lot of their money, and I put a lot of stress on them back when I refused to even go to class. And the feeling of redemption is what I remember the most. So yeah, I'm off to a bachelor's program now. I'm taking classes toward a bachelor's degree in USD. One more small note about how the little things that we do can really make a difference. I was initially going to go to a different university, but it turns out that my credits were not going to transfer as well as I had hoped. I was about ready to give up again, and then I had a quick 20-minute conversation with Susan Martin. She said, "Oh, you're looking at the wrong colleges for someone that was in a workforce program." And she had me squared away quickly. It's incredible what some of you can do with just a little bit of time. So this is my final semester at Lone Star. I'm taking environmental science, and I'm proudly boosting Cypress Center's enrollment numbers here for my last semester here at Lone Star. All right, so while I was preparing for this speech, I did learn that the professor who initially held out his hand for me, Professor Calvin Reynolds, he passed away in October of last year. And when I was reflecting on that and what he meant to me, I was in the middle of reading Marcus Aurelius' Meditations. And I'd like to share a passage that stood out to me, if you want to read along. Some people, when they do someone a favor, are always looking for a chance to call it in. And some aren't, but they're still aware of it. They still regard it as a debt. But others don't even do that. They're like a vine that produces grapes without looking for anything in return. They're like a horse at the end of the race, a dog when the hunt is over, a bee with its honey stored, and a human being after helping others. They don't make a fuss about it, they just go on to something else, as the vine looks forward to bearing fruit again in season. I wouldn't be standing here today if it weren't for Professor Reynolds. His small investment in me was the foundation of my success. And when he was finished with me, Professor Reynolds went on to whatever he was going to do next, as the vine looks forward to bearing fruit again. As we begin this semester, I'd like for you to remember my example. It's the little things that we do for our students that may be nothing to us, but everything to them. Just like Professor Smith putting the wind back in my sails when my return didn't go as planned, just like Susan Martin when she helped me on my bachelor's program again. So yeah, that's my Lone Star College story. I went from basically failing out to a workforce program to coming back as a member of the staff to a proud Lone Star College graduate. And this story is mine, but I'm certain that we have a tremendous number of students who are just like me. So what's next? This is my family at CyFest last year. That's my lovely fiance, Catherine, who has that title until, like Doug, she wises up and gives me the boot. And that is my son, George Walter Woodruff, in the Life Flight helicopter. We put Future Falcon. I wanted to put classic question, 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 because if he follows in my footsteps, then the Lord only knows when he's going to graduate. So, now that I've laid out a bunch of my mistakes, I do kind of want to point at one fun mistake that has been a part of my story. In COVID is when I graduated in the summer of 2020. By the time all my credits added up, my graduation had gone through Lone Star College Tomball. At the time, you know, everyone's graduation was the YouTube video. And Tomball accidentally left my name out of it. So I called Tomball College, and I was like, I did graduate, right? And they're like, oh yeah, you graduated. Like, okay, you know, my name wasn't in the video, so I wanted to check. They're like, oh, you know, sorry. I mean, mistakes happen. I do want to say that being able to come up here and tell you my story and how all of you have been involved in my success is cooler than any graduation that I could have attended. What you have all done for me and what you allow me to do for you means the world to me. And I really appreciate all of you. And thank you, and have a wonderful fall semester. Jeez, how can I follow Okay. So this semester, college relations has had some big changes. We have some new team members and a new department joining us. About 4 weeks ago, outreach and recruitment moved into our happy family, and we're excited about the opportunity to expand our scope and begin the process of reinventing outreach, recruitment, communications, and community relations. For the next few months, we're going to be focusing on the new direction, working with stakeholders on campus and in the community, and we're going to be sharing this journey with you every step of the way. So let's meet the new team. Of course, I'm Michelle Tran, Executive Director of College Relations. Celia Harper is our Special Events Manager. She's actually in the cafeteria right now working hard for the after party. Becca Stevenson, she's not new, but she is new to our team. She's the Outreach and Recruitment Manager, and her team will now be a part of our family too. Veronica Sanders, our Social Media Specialist, and by far the most amazing photograph ever. Well, I don't know, Daniel's is pretty great too, being the dog chasing you down the beach. Daniel Herrera is video production, and he's the person who made that lovely video you saw at the beginning of the program. Donnie Jansen, our web coordinator. Clay Grazier, graphic designer. Kelly Norton, media coordinator. And Laura Noah, who is also new to our office, but not to campus. She's our new office coordinator. So, as we explore what the future looks like, we're also exploring a name change. Now this is hot stuff, hot off the press, never seen before, for your eyes only. This is the proposed but not yet approved name, which is the Office of Communications, Outreach, and Engagement. So if and when our name is blessed by the leading gods, we're going to share that in a college-wide email that may or may not include an open house date with potentially delicious communications, outreach, and engagement cookies just for you, Ted. But they won't have a logo on it. No logo. We also have some involvement opportunities for you this year. We have a commencement speaker committee, which, as the name says, we'll be recommending potential commencement speakers to our cabinet members, and Kelly Norton is the contact for that. So if you're interested in being a part of that, please reach out to her. And then we have our social media advisory crew. We need department and division reps to share what's going on in their areas, things that are exciting and engaging that we can highlight on social media. So you would also be working with our Falcon Force students. So if you're interested in that group, please contact myself or Veronica Sanders, and she is in here somewhere. Oh, there she is. And speaking of Falcon Force, so the spirit of I Belong is about creating a campus where everyone feels welcome, seen, supported, and respected. And what better way to do that than have our own students share that message through social media. They really show you what it's like to be a student on this campus. So let's meet this year's Falcon Force. We have Oscar, who is studying the arts, and his hobbies are photography and video editing, and he's right there. Please stop and say hi to him on your way out. Michelle is studying business, and her hobbies are fitness and travel. Fabiola is a sophomore studying communications, and she's into dance and makeup. We have Johnny, who you may have seen. He recently did a video for our PhD class for Coach Miss Becca. He's studying electrical engineering, and he's really into fitness and tech. And Kimberly is a sophomore studying music, and her hobbies are singing and traveling. So, we have 5
Our Falcon Course content creators are super passionate about spreading that I belong message. They create content that is engaging, relevant, and most importantly, authentic, right? So our students know the difference between when Michelle is making a social media post and one of their peers is, and our data shows that. Since they started in February with only 3 students, Cheyenne, Vaughn, and Mohammed, we've seen some remarkable gains. Our reach on Facebook has gone up 30%, on Instagram 161%. Our page visits on Facebook are at 41% and 49% on Instagram. And our followers, in just that short period of time on Facebook, have gone up by 316 and by 1,020 on Instagram. So definitely effective. We don't have TikTok any longer, which is a total bummer for us and for our students because we had a huge growth spurt in that. But we're making great gains on the 2 most popular platforms that we are on. And LinkedIn has got some killer gains too. We've gained in the last year 1,788 followers. So we're doing really, really well there. So as we celebrate 20 years, we're excited to be bringing back the largest event on campus, CyFest. As you may or may not know, the first CyFest was held way back in 2005. We only had a few thousand in attendance that first year, but it grew to over 7,000 at its peak in 2016. So for our 20-year anniversary, we really want to break that record. So keep your fingers crossed. We're scheduling it for October 7th from 10 to 2. We're flush with sponsors. We've even got the Texas Hammer coming, as you can see, so we're pretty psyched about that. So it's going to be back to full scale. I know last year we kind of had a soft relaunch, but it's going to be the entire campus, just like the old days. So we're super stoked about that. And Celia Harper is leading the events team for that. So be sure to keep a watch on your email. We're going to be sending out e-blasts about volunteer opportunities and, of course, the event information. So, obviously, 20-year anniversary this year. We've got Convocation today to kick off the celebration. We're also going to have a 20-year anniversary community event September 13th. The involvement fair is going to also have elements of our 20-year anniversary as this CyFest. And we've also got some social media challenges and contests happening. We're in week 2 right now of the 20 days of LSC-CyFair Social Media Challenge. And yesterday, we made a post that asked, who is your favorite professor or staff member? So look at all of that love for you guys. Isn't that awesome? If you don't follow us, stop making excuses and get online. It's 2023, come on. We are everywhere. There's not a platform except for TikTok that we're not on. So, lastly, before I go, I just wanted to let you know at today's luncheon, you're going to be getting a Superfly 20-year anniversary shirt. Daniel Trent is modeling it. I don't know where you are, Daniel. There she is. So, we encourage you to make LSC-CyFair your aesthetic next week, and I can feel my daughter cringe when I just use that word. So next week, wear that shirt, wear all your LSC-CyFair gear with your name tag, and all those students, it makes them feel welcome, and if they're nervous, they see that badge and that shirt, and they feel like they can come up and ask you questions. So thank you all very much, and I'll see you in the cafeteria.
Thank you. What's my favorite memory? It's got here. 2 out of 20 years, that's 10%, math folks. Did I get it right? That's 10%. What's my favorite memory? You'd be surprised what you can pack in 2 years. But if this college was a group project, I'm the guy that volunteered to print it and put it in a pretty folder and turn it in. Y'all, we are standing on the shoulders of giants. Y'all done a great job. It was easy to print it and put it in the folder. But one of my favorite memories, I'm going to cheat and do two. I've got two favorite memories I want to share with you, and I do see my timer. The first is about Lone Star College, the physical place. When I was just done with my 5th interview for this job, we had a trip planned down to Galveston, and we went down to Galveston Island and tried to forget about the interview process. And when we were leaving Galveston, our way back up to Dallas, my wife says, "Do you want to go visit the campus?" And I said, "Oh, absolutely. I have to do this." And we came down Barker Cypress, made a right, and you could see that corridor with the fountain, the beautiful trees. You could see all the way into LSC. And I said, "We need to turn around." And she goes, "No," my wife said, no, let's go a little bit more. So we went around the perimeter of the campus, and every once in a while through the trees in the buildings, you could see the campus. She goes, "Do you want to get out of the car and check it out?" I said, "No, we have to turn around." And she goes, "What is your problem?" I said, "If I see any more of this campus and I don't get that job, I am going to be absolutely heartbroken." So, yay. That worked out. My other favorite memory is about Lone Star College, the people, and that comes from an event that we had in December of 21. It was the Winter Wonderland registration event. And it was for the first time that I saw many people's faces, because it was outside and we had taken our masks off. There was popcorn in the air, there were students there, there were students coming on back campus. I got to meet so many cool people. One of my favorite interactions for that night is when Stacy Grissel came up to me and said, "We need to do something about mental health here on this campus." And it was a short conversation, but it really gave my work purpose. It really was that moment that defined, we've got a job here to do, we've got important work to do here. And that, to me, was one of my favorite memories. Was launching that, listening to people, seeing people without masks, being there for students. But it was a magical night. It was wonderful weather, and if you think hard enough, we'll get back to that weather eventually. So with that, being relatively new here, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Chelsea Branch, also new to represent part of our 20-year history, part of the 10%ers, I guess we can call ourselves. Chelsea.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to all the new faculty and staff. Welcome to the family. I sat reset just a year ago, so all the feels that you're going through, I went through it. But I can tell you on this side, you made the right decision. And they didn't pay me to say that, but honestly, after you go through the year, you're going to realize you made the right decision. So I just want to take y'all down a trip, memory lane with me just really quick, because if not, Jim's going to cut me off, so I only got a few minutes. But a year ago in July, I found myself on the first floor of the CASA building. And I'm familiar with the CASA building because I previously worked as an adjunct faculty for the amazing history department, and that's where we teach our classes. And when I say I was familiar with the building, I would go teach my class and then I would leave, right? And I'm also familiar with the SIT building because as a previous dual credit instructor, we would have our fall dual credit faculty meetings there in SIT. So I would drive, the meeting was required, so I would go and then I would leave, right? There's really kind of no connection, interaction, never had like a tour or anything. And so I find myself on the first floor of the CASA building. And this is during the month of July, so summer session 2. If you know, you know I took summer session 1, right? So I'm not on campus normally during this time. But I signed up for a training, I think it was LSC ROA, one way, it's like a 4-hour training. And I wanted to go ahead and knock it out early and get it done. It was led by none other than Sarah Zapata and Danielle Trent. I didn't know it at the time, but I knew I needed to get to this training, right? So I'm on the first floor of the CASA building, and I don't have my badge on, I have on a black blouse. I don't know why, but you just need to know that for context information. And I'm one of those kind of people, I don't like to ask for help, you know. I'm gonna figure it out, I'm gonna fail a couple times, I don't need to read the direction, it looks like it goes this way, so I'm gonna put it together, right? And so one thing about me that you need to know, my facial expressions will say it before my mouth does. So I'm that coworker you have to text during the meeting, thanks Amy, fix your face, right? And so I'm on the first floor, I don't want to ask for help, I'm kind of embarrassed. And there's a group of people talking, and one of the ladies, clearly she can read my face and see that I need some assistance. Because I'm like trying to figure out, all right, do I go this set of double doors or that set of double doors? Because it's July, right? It's hot, so I'm trying to get there as quickly as possible as I can to get back into the AC. And so she gets the attention of one of the officers, and so he comes over and he assists me. And so he walks me through the correct set of double doors, and he's giving me the directions, y'all. He gave me some really good directions. I just remember him saying, go straight down the sidewalk, you're gonna make a right, it's gonna be the second building, right? So me and my no directionless self, right? I'm like showing him away because I got this, I don't need it. So I'm walking down the path of greatness that he's just laid for me, right? So I go straight down the sidewalk and I go, absolutely not, I go left. So I'm opening up the right-hand door and I'm seeing and I'm reading the name of this building, and that is not the building I need to be in for this training. So he was right, I needed to go right. So now I'm turned around and I'm going right where I need to be. And mind you, I never look back. Right? How many of you know that officer must have saw me go left instead of going right? Like he told me to do, okay? Remember, I shoot him away because I got this, I don't need your help, okay? So I'm going right, and I get to the correct building, and I find the room that the training is going to be in, and, you know, I have a few minutes to spare, and, you know, like, you can just take a few steps in this Texas heat, and you're out of breath, and, you know, you're hot, and so I'm getting ready to sit down, and, you know, you have that nice little sigh of relief because you made it back inside to the AC. And then in walks this woman, and she looks at me, and we make contact. She's like, man, you walk fast. And so I do. I used to run track in high school. That has nothing to do with nothing, but I can walk pretty fast. I can get to where I need to go. If I need to get there, I'm probably going to get there before you. And remember, I never looked back. And so I'm thinking in my mind, like, man, did I forget to leave the door open for her? Did it close in her face? Because, you know, it doesn't take much. Like, when the weather is hot, you kind of, like, already in this mood and have an attitude, so any little thing can set you off. And so I'm thinking, like, you know, I really didn't see you. My parents didn't raise me that way. I'm really sorry. And so, no, that wasn't it. So she proceeds to tell me that she was sent to be my escort to make sure I made it to the training and I got to the correct building. And so I'm so thankful for that. And she goes on to tell me that she tried to call out to me to get my attention, and I would know that she was sent to guide me, right? But I never heard her. Again, I never looked back. I didn't have any headphones in. There's like a good gap between me and her trying to get to this training. And so, you know, I just felt terrible. And I'm like, oh, you know, thank you so much. Like, you didn't have to do that. And I'm thinking, like, why did you keep walking? Like, why didn't you just give up? Like, it's hot outside. You could have gone back to the AC where you were. And she's like, no. I wanted to ensure that you made it to your training that you were worried about getting to, right? And so, yes, if you know, you know, like, if you worked in a different work environment outside of Lone Star CyFair, then you know, there would have been some people who saw me in distress and looking confused, and they would not have sought their conversation, and they definitely would have sent a faculty member or a staff member to escort me and make sure I got to where I needed to go, right? So I was very appreciative of that moment. So as we're celebrating 20 years, and I think about my connection to Lone Star as a brand new faculty member, that was really my first encounter, and I felt like I had that nice, warm welcome, that warm embrace, realizing, well, this is different. Because remember, this is July, you know, summer session 2, everybody's not on campus, right? So I'm like, oh, this is how they are all the time. And so, you know, she's so sweet, and she tells me, you know, I'm glad you made it to your training. I hope you enjoyed it and have a great day. And, you know, I'm just so thankful for that. So for all the new faculty and staff, I hope you have a great first encounter. Again, mine happened in July before we made it to convocation, and so I hope you have a great first encounter, so much so that you want to continue to come back here and work for the next 20 years. So fast forward to last month in July, I finished teaching summer session 1. So I'm on the second floor in the CASA building, and I see a mom and I see her son. And they need to get to the testing center. And you know in CASA we have 224. And then we have 104 downstairs. Well, 224 was closed down. You all know sometimes throughout the academic year, they've shut down because of noise and the construction, and they'll relocate to 104. Look at me, I know the numbers and everything. What a difference a year makes. And so this is where they need to get to. And so I'm giving mom directions, and I'm like, don't wait on the elevator, just take the stairs, go straight down, you're gonna make a right, go through the double doors, you're gonna make another right, pass up the vending machines. When you get to the hall, you're gonna make a left and go straight down, and you'll see the testing and assessment center. But how many of you know your facial expressions will say it before your mouth does? So I'm looking at mom, and mom's looking at me, and I'm like, don't worry, I got you, I'll take you myself. And she's so sweet, and she's like, no, don't worry about it, I don't wanna bother you. Because remember, I just finished teaching class this time, I have my badge on, I have my teacher bag, and I walk with a purpose, right? So I look like I'm the person that you wanna ask how to get you somewhere on campus. And so, you know, down the stairs we go, go to the right, you know the way, right? And so there's like this gap between me, mom, and the son, and so I get to the testing center before they do. It's like, and I'm like waiting on them, like waiting. And mom is so sweet, and she goes, "We would have never found this without you." I know, right? And so I'm like, "No, you would have. Somebody would have assisted you along the way." She's so sweet, so thankful, and I'm like, "These ladies are gonna get you taken care of. I hope y'all have a great day." What did I end up? On the first floor of the CASA building. A year later, when I was scared and embarrassed to ask for directions to get to where I needed to go, and I was able to give directions and then lead someone to where they needed to go. So for all of you that are starting out, if you're a first year faculty member or staff member, you're gonna go left instead of going right, and that's okay. Just laugh at yourself, give yourself some grace. A student's gonna come up to you, if you're in the CASA building on the second floor, you know, and they're gonna ask you, is there a typo on my schedule? This is the CASA building, right? Well, you see right here, it says case. Let me tell you where you need to be, right? Someone's gonna come up to you and ask, where is 106 CASA? Right? I just found this out 2 weeks ago. It's the payment center. I don't know why they just didn't ask for the payment center, but in the email it said 106. So give yourself some grace. You're gonna figure it out. The same questions you have going to your mind right now, you'll be answering them for somebody else a year from now. Okay? So again, welcome to the Lone Star family. I hope you enjoy every moment of your first year experience, and thank y'all so much for your time this morning.
Now for your academic update. The ILT, or Instructional Leadership Team, we've been working a lot on our own personal leadership growth, really transitioning from thinking of leadership as a noun to leadership as a verb. Random acts of kindness coming your way. We've also been through the speed of trust, and we've been working on our communications. With our aspirational success work, we did a phenomenal job as a college, and I want to thank all of my faculty for all of the wonderful work that you did. 85% seems like a big number, but we made great strides in getting there. We've also found recently that that's aligned with Chancellor Castillo's vision for students first. The other great thing is it's connected to our work in I Belong. An update on our community garden: we've got the money. We've got the site secured. We've got boxes built. Very soon we're going to put out an RFP, and that RFP is going to be for a contractor to help get the hard work done. We should have plants in the ground this year. I'd like to update you all on the Mental Health Task Force. 2.0 of that initiative was clearly about our employees. How do we care for our own mental health so that we can be the best we can be for our students? That work required a lot of input. It took a year to get that. We should be rolling out very soon 2.0. 3.0 is going back to working with our students in their mental health. We're going to help them learn how to make friends. An update on the Title III SIP grant, which is focused on co-requisite math initiatives. We took a crew of math faculty to New Bern, North Carolina, and we learned all about AVID for higher ed. There are going to be a lot of work with the Title III SIP grant as we continually strengthen our institutional programs. Lastly, I'd like to mention our OER efforts. Victoria Brain and the library have done some great efforts, and we even had a Texas Learn OER certification program launched this summer. So I thank all of the faculty that participated in that, and I hope that you keep a lookout for those continued efforts of OER in this moving forward to this next semester. I Belong was introduced to our campus last fall. Throughout the entire last year, Dr. Jones solicited feedback from different focus groups to come along with the tenets of I Belong. Moving from I Belong the philosophy into I Belong the action. Thank you to the faculty that gave input. Thank you for the work that my deans did on that initiative, because we now have a good idea of what I Belong tenets mean for instruction. For example, with Campus Tenet 1, I'll be compassionate and welcoming. We are committed to designing courses that maximize learning and engagement to increase that belongingness. And what we're going to be doing throughout this year is committing to learning students' names early. And I do want to also say that I'm going to celebrate and champion individual efforts. So if you have a better way of doing this, we will empower you. However, me and my academic leaders, we will be specifically supporting, helping you to learn students' names and learning them early. For the second tenet of I belong, I will be kind and earn trust. We are committed as academics that in the classroom we'll create engagement in and out of the classroom, between and with our students, to create that sense of belonging. One of the biggest ways that we can do this, again, supporting individual efforts, is to create connections for career and transfer opportunities. We feel the students need to see the end of the road, and we are going to help and commit to helping them see that end game. The last campus tenet was to be transparent and accountable to increase understanding. For instruction, that looks like creating frequent and timely learning checkpoints paired with individualized connection and encouragement. And what we're going to do to help support that this year is work on relational capacity to create personal connections in the classroom and to create engagement. We will again be working with all of you to support your individual academic efforts, but also specifically to increase personal engagement in the classroom. That is your instructional update. I now turn it over to my friend and colleague, Dr. Wendy Wilson.
Wow, so this is what campus life is like. Well, hello everyone. I am Wendy Wilson, and I have the pleasure of serving as your Acting Vice President of Student Success. Many of you know me from my work at System Office, where for the past 6 years I've worked in the areas of developmental education, curriculum management, and through our SAC-COC reaffirmation process. So as I look out into the audience today, I see so many of you that I have worked with throughout the years. In fact, this brings me to my favorite memory, a first impression. Having served in this role for a mere 5 weeks, today, I walked onto campus, making my way between the SET and HSC1 buildings, and there greeting me was a familiar face telling me I belong. As I set about preparing for today, I wanted to make sure that I accurately captured the spirit of campus culture, which was ever so present to a newcomer. So I reached out to my team, who was able to share a few of these experiences that I have for you today. First was shared with me by Donna Jo Anderson. She serves as one of the advisors for us, and she shared about a student with whom she helped complete their Lone Star College application as a high school student. She then continued to work with him as he came onto campus, helping him find employment, first as a student ambassador, and then working in the payment center. The student then wanted to get into the MedRadTech program, and so he started applying to that. Wasn't as successful as he would have liked to have been, and then COVID hit. So during that time, he took up employment at Walmart, and guess what? Donna Jo saw him there and kept that connection with him. And then as we started back up again, of course, he came back over, reconnected with her, and decided to apply to the program. Again, this time she worked with him on his application, connected him with resources, and I'm pleased to say he was accepted in the program and is starting this fall. The second example that I have for you comes from Student Life, Todd Thomas. Todd Thomas, I haven't met you. Are you here? Hi, Todd. So I think this is just a great example here. Todd found a 12-year-old international master chess player, Ryo Chang, and if you YouTube him, he is a pretty famous guy, and he brought him on campus, and our chess club was able to have a tournament with him and play. It was, as Dan says, this was just a really cool experience. He incorporated the leaders in that program, connected with college relations, connected with the student life staff. It's just a really great example of how our faculty connect with students, not just inside the classroom, but outside the classroom. So I thank you for all that you do there and the connections that you have in student life, because I believe student success is not just a division, student success is all of us working together. And then finally, I have to share, so as I mentioned, only been here 5 weeks. I didn't expect to have my own story to share with you, but as you have a campus culture that is infused with this I belong nature, of course I have a story that just happened serendipitously last Wednesday. So last Wednesday, I found out that it was one of our team members' birthday. Latina King was celebrating her birthday, so I had to go out and get her some flowers, and I met her right outside of her office in the enrollment area. And I gave her the flowers, and of course she was excited. Oh, this is so great. And then I know she was like, oh, people are looking at me. So she turns to a student and she says, it's my birthday. And the student responds back, it's my birthday too. And we were like, oh my goodness. So Latina says, I have to give you some of my flowers. So she pulls a flower out of her bouquet and hands it to the student. The student was so excited. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. So then Latina turns to me and she says, oh, you have to come see my office and see what they've done. Unexpectedly, the student stood up and said, okay. And so we went to Latina's office to see what had been done. So this is a picture of us there. And as we walked in there, they were kind of putting away the cake. And of course, we gave her the cake. So this student came onto campus to do the most fun thing on her birthday, enroll in classes and sit in a chair. And she had the experience where she got to celebrate her birthday. And so she was taking pictures and sending pictures back to her family. And I turned to her and I said, do you feel like you belong here? And she said, yes, it's just like those posters. It's your slogan. Okay, so now I get to do something really fun. It's raffle time. All right, do you all have your tickets? Okay, I'm going to give you the last, well, I'll just read them all. I don't know how many numbers you all have. So this will be ticket number 491745. All right, so afterwards, if you can just come over here to the side, Jenny or Jennifer will be here. They'll get your information and 2 tickets to the Taste of CyFair. So you'll get to come for CyFest and then you'll have a Taste of CyFair. Okay, so now I get to give a student success update, and I have to ask for some grace because, I went too long. I guess it only takes 5 weeks, and then you get to start breaking the rules. All right, so let me just give you, first of all, I just want to highlight Melissa Rossin again, who is joining us back at CyFair as the Dean of Student Success. You all know her as she was here, the former Director of Advising and Counseling, and went off to be at University Park, but couldn't wait to come back to be with you all again. So we're delighted. I'm delighted to be able to work along with Melissa. I had the opportunity to work with her as a part of an OD leadership group, and I know her as an advocate for students, a very thoughtful leader, and just a genuinely compassionate person. So just really grateful to work alongside of her and the other members of our student success team here. This team over the past year has been exploring and implementing ways that they can really help focus on student completion. And I just want to be able to share a few of those with you today. First, in academic advising, we've been working toward a case management model. What does this mean for you all? This means that we assign students to advisors so they have a person that they can go to. And it also allows our advisors to create depth with both our students and our faculty members to have targeted communication at critical times throughout the semester to support them. Another event along this line is the Sneak Peek, which was started in the fall of 22. This is an event where we welcome students onto campus to help them become comfortable with the environment, help them find their rooms. I will say, as a parent, I have done this with my child in not an organized way, so it is just a great way for students to feel comfortable here. And I know that there are many of you here that will be volunteering or a part of that as we do it again this year, starting Thursday evening and Saturday, so I look forward to seeing you all as a part of this event. And just know this event, like many others in student life, are intended to reinforce those ideas of belongingness, and they also provide opportunities for leadership development. The Student Life team has also been collecting information on student participation in these events, and consistent with literature, what they are finding is that there is a positive relationship between student participation outside of the classroom and their term-to-term persistence. So we look forward to delving more into that and sharing that information with you. As we turn to 23-24, the following are some of the priorities of our division. We will continue to support different types of student populations in order to meet them at their needs, whether that means we're working on specific communications for our continuing students, or we're designing programs and services for our adult population as they come back to reskill and upskill. Communication and customer service has been a focus and will continue to be a focus of our division, as we know that student services is that very first impression for students, and it provides that welcoming environment. We can set the stage before they even come into your classroom. And then while I have shared a couple of examples with you of that I Belong in action, our division will be working to operationalize these tenets as we create some shared language and a common vision to guide our work in student success. So I hope you can see that I'm very excited to be here with you all. It's a great opportunity. I appreciate the leadership team for giving me this opportunity to work with such an extraordinary and committed team, which I see right here in the middle. Thank you all so much. And I'm just so excited to be a part of this campus culture that helps people feel seen, supported, and respected. Thank you all so much. Turn it over to President.
Good morning, I'm Ted Louie. I'm the Vice President of Administrative Services, and my favorite memory is there is the physical part of the campus, and then there is the personal part. So the physical part is that, remember the snow day that we had. First thing I did when I came on campus is I called Michelle Tran up, let's take some picture and we can send it off on Christmas card in the future. For me, I started in 2017, and I think my favorite memories was in the April and May of that year with my wife, and I was able to attend a number of performances at the end of the semester, and we're so impressed with the talent and of the student as well as what the faculty has done, and that's something that we continue to do every April and May of each year. So raffle time. Okay, so it's going to be a blue one. The number is 493585. Jennifer at the end of this presentation, and she'll take that information. So, update from my area. So, as we celebrate 20 years, everything starts falling apart. So this is the pump stations that we basically, during this fiscal year 2023, we have rebuilt about 60 to 70% of the pump station, from screen, pump, motors, etc. And the way it's going, it is keep the same, Dr. Jones will be leading a ring dance next Monday. So I'm really proud of the grounds team that with the upgrade of the pump station, we do have a very, from the infrastructure side, we do have a very robust system to keep the grass alive if we have rain. We also have refreshed the carpets over at HSC1 during the summer. And then we have repaired the roof at the CASA Student Services area, and the indoor waterfall amenity has been eliminated. We have replaced the doors over at Case with sliding door, and it worked very well, and I think this is one of the things that we will continue to move along to some of the older building as we celebrate 20 years. We have also modified some of the restroom in HSC1, both first floor and second floor, as well as CASA, to basically have restroom without doors to make it easier for the student with disability. And then on the bond project, we completed the bond project on the first floor of LRC, and I think we chose the furniture very well. We see a lot of students using it, and that is a really hats off to Mary Montfort for choosing furniture that just worked perfectly with her. And then we also have upgraded the classroom at Tech that Cisco has moved out to Westway Park during the year. And then moving forward, the major project that is happening in 24 is we are going to upgrade some of the space in CASA, mainly the enrollment lab, the transfer lab, and the space that we're going to create a space for disability services. And that is going to start in October. And then we have also updated wayfinding signage. This is going to be a plan for much easier identification for the student and visitors. Basically, we will have red sign for the south part of the campus, and blue part is on the north part of the campus. And we are also going to change the parking lot sign to be identified with the building number. So the parking area close to art is 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D. And that's the sign that we're going to start this week. So my presentation would not be complete without chart and numbers and graphs. So just on the financial side, in FY22, the actual spend for the campus was a little bit over $50 million. This year we forecast it to be 53. Part of the increase is the salary increase that we had last September and January, as well we have additional enrollments, etc. So we are going to start off with FY24. I think it's going to be, we're going to have an exciting year. I think everybody did a great part on the budget and, with the growth that we're going to do. So I'm the one that is stopping everybody from going to their lunch and my dessert table, so let's move over